A house can look cheap on a screen because the screen shows only the house. It does not show the drive to a specialist, the stormwater line, the old timber behind fresh paint, or a job market tied to one industry. In June 2026, the average New Zealand home was still valued at a little over $900,000. In several smaller districts, the figure was less than half of that. The difference is real, so are the reasons behind it. Those figures are guides, not price tags. Small districts record fewer sales, and one unusual month can move an average sharply. We will use current values only to establish relative affordability, then judge each place through work, housing condition, infrastructure, hazards, and access to services. This is a descent through 10 relatively affordable New Zealand towns. It is not advice to avoid them. Each offers room, community, useful work, and a slower life. What must a buyer understand before mistaking a lower purchase price for a lower cost of living? Number 10 is Kawerau. From the road, Kawerau looks unusually deliberate. The streets are broad, the industrial pipes are visible, and Mount Putoaki rises beyond a town created in the 1950s around pulp and paper. This is not a settlement that accidentally grew beside a factory. Industry was the reason for its modern form. Kawerau District Council calls it the industrial heart of the Eastern Bay and links new housing to green industry and an expanding workforce. The district grew by 22% between the 2013 and 2023 censuses. Council is preparing more homes, not planning for disappearance. The hidden cost is not that Kawerau has no future. It is that a cheap-looking house belongs to an industrial and regional labor market, not an Auckland one. A remote worker must test broadband at the address. A household changing jobs must ask how many realistic employers fit its skills. Affordable demand can tighten a small market quickly. The first lesson is simple. Low entry price and weak demand are not the same thing. Kawerau can be affordable precisely while it is growing. That leads southwest to a larger forestry town where the question is not whether work exists, but how concentrated its history remains. Number 9 is Tokoroa. Tokoroa sits on State Highway 1 between Hamilton and Taupa. Its scale feels practical. Schools, sports grounds, a town center, freight movements, and the pine country that shaped it. South Waikato District Council describes it as New Zealand's forestry, timber, pulp, and paper hub. That identity is not a slogan added after the fact. It is the town's economic skeleton. The growth plan expects Tokoroa to expand, with Taupa, Tauranga, and Hamilton roughly 65 to 90 kilometers away. On paper, that means 3 job markets. In a working week, it means fuel, tires, and hours absent from a mortgage calculator. The plan expects growth in older age groups, increasing demand for health services and smaller homes. The house you can afford may not be the house the town increasingly needs. An older home can be inexpensive to buy and costly to heat, maintain, and adapt. Look under the house, check insulation, and price the work. If you like practical New Zealand stories beneath property headlines, keep this channel close. The next towns show why a low mortgage can still sit beside expensive water, weather, and distance. Number 8 is Kūiti. The main street is close to the railway, limestone country surrounds the town, and Waitomo's visitor economy is nearby. Kūiti can seem like a neat compromise, a real service center with a lower housing threshold than the major Waikato cities. Then rain changes the map. In 2023, weather-damaged homes, businesses, and infrastructure across Waitomo District. Western Kūiti flooded again in October when rain overwhelmed stormwater. The council says much of the network was designed around a 2-year storm event. Its response includes modeling, upgrades, and proposed retention ponds. That does not make every Kūiti property a flood property. It makes address level checking essential. 2 houses separated by a few streets can carry very different exposure. Ask for the council hazard information, read the LIM, inspect after rain, and speak to an insurer before making the offer unconditional. Do not treat an online premium estimate as a promise of cover. Here, the hidden cost is uncertainty. A cheaper purchase can be sound after the buyer learns where water travels when drains fill. The next town's constraint is something a map cannot measure: the house itself. Number 7 is Taumarunui. Taumarunui stands where rivers, rail, and the Central Plateau routes meet. It has the bones of a much more connected age: a broad main street, railway history, public buildings, and a hinterland that depends on it. The town is not nowhere, it is the somewhere for a large rural area. Ruapehu District Council's spatial plan asks for more housing, jobs, services, and long-term infrastructure. Separate council work on housing records a shortage of warm, dry, affordable homes in the district, a shortage of long-term rentals, overcrowding, and difficulty housing key workers. That is the contradiction. A listing can be cheap because the land market is small, while a good, dry rental remains hard to find. An older house here needs a cold climate inspection. Check roof space, underfloor moisture, heating, windows, and consents. Estimate winter power with the house at a healthy temperature. Some specialist health, education, or employment needs pull a Taumarunui household toward larger centers. The hidden cost may be one long trip each month, repeated for years. The town's services must match the life you intend to lead. Number 6 is Marton. Marton is close enough to Palmerston North and Wanganui to invite a commuter's calculation. The streets contain large sections and family houses that can look generous beside metropolitan prices. Rangi TK District is now planning for growth, including more intensive housing near town centers and a new development area on Marton's northwest edge. Growth exposes old infrastructure. Marton relies on dam-supplied drinking water. The council says it is safe, yet color, taste, and smell issues recur, especially in spring and summer. In April 2026, council chose a new direction after years of investigation. Infrastructure is shared. A renovated kitchen does not replace a town water source. Buyers should read council plans because rates, timing, and service quality are part of ownership. Marton marks the midpoint of our descent. Until now, the risks could be treated as individual checks: employment, commuting, insulation, drainage, water. From here down, the lesson changes. In a small town, the price of one house can be tied to the financial capacity of an entire district. Number 5 is Dannevirke. Dannevirke's wide main road and surrounding farmland make it feel stable, and much of it is. It serves the Tokoroa district rather than waiting for tourists to discover it. The council's housing strategy is not a story of abandonment. It plans for additional housing, infrastructure renewal, social housing relationships, and new pensioner units. Growth requires pipes, roads, and careful land choice. Taumarunui used Topata stream flood modeling and changed proposed residential areas to leave more room around waterways. Its renewals program states that parts of Three Waters infrastructure are prone to failure. For a buyer, the hidden cost is not a dramatic disaster claim. It is the accumulated price of ordinary renewal. Ask when the street's water and sewer mains were installed, what work is funded, and whether the section sits in a modeled flow path. Then inspect the dwelling for the same age problem. A town may offer a low land price because generations of infrastructure and houses are reaching renewal at the same time. Number 4 is Westport. Westport is one of the clearest examples of why national price comparisons can mislead. QV placed the average Buller District home at roughly $404,000 in May 2026 after a strong quarterly rise. That was still far below the national average. It was also a small market, where low sales volumes can move an index sharply. The Buller River supplies the deeper correction. During the July 2021 flood, more than 2,000 residents were evacuated and 127 houses were left uninhabitable. NIWA's account is not a reason to condemn Westport. It is a reason to distinguish the town you love from the exact site you insure. Flood exposure changes affordability through premiums, excesses, lending, and repairs. Ask what mapping says about the property, access route, and services. Check floor height, subfloor materials, claims, drainage, and evacuation routes. Obtain written insurance terms before finance deadlines. Westport also shows why a rising market does not erase physical risk. People value its community, coast, outdoor life, and relative affordability. Those benefits are real. The responsible buyer holds both truths at once. Subscribe if you want more honest places behind the postcard. Our last 3 towns reveal a quieter cost. Maintaining choice when a community is small, southern, and aging. Number 3 is Waimate. Waimate sits inland between Timaru and Oamaru, with Edwardian buildings, farmland, and a pace that makes a large city feel unnecessarily loud. A district valuation released in 2025 placed its average home value around $455,000. Council material openly describes attractively priced homes as a draw card. Local consultation has listed a small population base, limited skilled jobs, retail gaps, infrastructure needs, and narrow industries. The economic strategy works on connectivity, business attraction, education, and housing because affordability alone does not create opportunity. For a remote worker, the test is resilience. What happens when the internet fails, the employer changes office policy, or a partner needs a different career? For an older buyer, the test is access. Which health services are local, which require travel, and who will drive if that becomes difficult? For a family, it is schooling and activities measured in weekly kilometers. Those questions reveal whether the buyer is purchasing a life the town supports. The hidden cost of a small place is sometimes the number of alternatives available when circumstances change. Number 2 is Gore. Gore presents itself as rural city living, and the phrase is useful. It has more services, culture, and employment than its population might suggest, while remaining tied to the farms and processing economy around it. The district aims to attract another 1,500 residents by 2030. Property demand has recently been stronger than the old cheap town stereotype. QV reported Gore among the country's fastest quarterly growers in May 2026, while warning that small market sales volumes can create large movements. A buyer chasing last year's reputation may meet this year's competition. Do not buy a headline. Compare similar recent sales, not a district average. Examine heating, glazing, roof, and drainage. Test the job market for 2 adults. A household is less resilient when income depends on one employer or sector. Cheap towns do not stay frozen for newcomers. Residents already compete for suitable homes, and metropolitan equity can change a small market quickly. Affordability means joining a community, not extracting from it. Number 1 is Invercargill. Invercargill is larger than the other places on this list and therefore the most tempting conclusion. It offers a hospital, tertiary education, an airport, industry, sport, retail, and a broad street grid, while its average home value remained far below the national figure. In April 2026, QV placed that average near $549,000 and called Invercargill the country's strongest performing main center market. The held-back correction is that this was not a bargain market waiting motionless. Values had reached a new peak, supported by employment stability and confidence. Relative affordability was attracting demand. The city's housing problem is also about fit and age. Council planning notes that a significant share of Invercargill and bluff dwellings were built before 1930. In 2026, the council moved to allow more medium density and smaller attached homes near the center because existing rules did not meet that need. Its new elderly units opened with a waiting list of more than 50 people. So the final hidden cost is mismatch. A city can have thousands of houses and still lack the warm, accessible, centrally located homes its people need. A cheap old villa may be wonderful for a skilled renovator and punishing for someone who needs low maintenance. A large garden may be freedom at 40 and a burden at 70. Across these 10 towns, the pattern is not that affordable New Zealand is secretly terrible. It is that price is a compressed signal. Kawerau and Tokoroa ask whether your work fits the local economy. Kūiti and Westport ask what water does at the exact address. Taumarunui and Invercargill ask whether an older house is warm and suitable. Marton and Dannevirke ask how shared infrastructure will be renewed. Waimate and Gore ask how much choice a smaller labor and service market can preserve. Before buying, build a second listing. Put insurance in writing. Add heating and travel. Read the LIM and hazard maps. Check broadband, healthcare, schools, and every adult's job options. Price urgent maintenance locally. Visit on a wet weekday, not only a bright open home Sunday. If the numbers still work, the lower price may be exactly what it appears to be, a chance to build a good life in a community with room for you. Which of these 10 towns would suit your real life best, and which hidden cost would you investigate first? I'm Graham. A house tells you its price in one line, but a town takes longer. Look after yourself, and next time we will follow 10 strange places through Northland where rock, industry, and history have left objects the tourist map rarely explains.